Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program. And this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. And it does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Realty. Barb, most home sellers have a great deal of love for their properties naturally, and sometimes that translates into a bit of an unrealistic belief, resulting in mistakes either in agent selection or pricing or marketing or all three of those. What should a home seller do if their house is not selling?
Well, Richard, I would say first, try to get it resolved with their existing agent. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter how pretty your house is. If the market's going to tell you if you missed the mark, either with pricing or with promotion. Those two things are absolutely critical, or preparation. So let's start with preparation, because a lot of people ask me, what do I do? What do I not do to get my house ready for sale? And it's really important because, some agents might not have the experience. I mentioned earlier that 81% of agents sell 3 or less homes a year, and 80% of them leave the business every 5 years. So that's, how much expertise do they have if they're not doing this very often, right? And so you have to, agent selection absolutely is critical when it comes to putting one of your largest assets on the market. Then we'll talk about pricing. So pricing, who really decides what a home will sell for is the buyer, right? Now, that doesn't mean a buyer can come in and offer $1 and get a house, right? Although we had for a while with the auction properties, we would have to put them in the MLS at $1. I tell you, it made the phone blow up, but it drove me nuts, because I have $1. And I'm like, okay, that's not really the price. It's an auction and whatever. So, but when you look at pricing, it's hard for you. There is a lot of information online. If you go to Zillow, they have their guess of your home's value. If you go to Realtor.com, they'll have 3 different guesses of your home's value. And it's a little bit difficult to average it necessarily, because every home is unique and different. Every home has their special features. Every home has things that are not so special, right? So you can somewhat rely on similar sales, but you also have to look at what the market is doing and what are your goals. There are some people that say, hey, I'm not in a hurry. I'll sit there for a while and wait. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's the market that's going to make a decision on what your home will sell for, no matter what the agent says, no matter what Zillow says or Realtor.com. And part of what we do is we help our clients make a really good decision about that with good, valid information. And that's critical, because if you go on the market and you're priced what I call very realistically versus optimistically, you're going to get a majority of the buyers jump on it within the first 30 days. The longer it sits on the market, the less likely you are to get full market value for you. And then the other thing is promotion. Now, promotion is something that the agent is responsible for, and that has to do with how the home is presented to the marketing. In my view, just sticking a home in the MLS and taking some pictures with your smartphone is not enough. The photos have to be great, right? Because we know most buyers are going to eliminate homes on their cell phone in the first 57 seconds, right? So if we don't make that impression in a few seconds, they're moving on. So that's part of what we do, is we give you tips on what to do, what not to do to get your house ready for sale. So I have talked to a lot of home sellers that decided to work with someone else, or they never called me, which is, it's okay, it's their choice, right? But if they decide to make a change, that's where it gets a little interesting. So they're always calling me for that advice. First of all, I would communicate with your own agent and deal with the concerns at first. The way our state listing agreements are set up, they have an obligation of good faith, loyalty, fidelity, right? But if they can't perform, they need to tell you. If they are not doing their duties, they need to tell you. Recently, I had somebody call me that's ready to make a switch because their agent is not, they're not currently active selling homes. I had another one where the agent moved away. Now, maybe you could do this at a distance, but at the end of the day, they're not getting this house sold, and that's what this seller needs to do. And so he asked me to take a look at it, and I did. And I'm like, I think I can improve on some of these things, but you really have to, ask your agent if they will cancel the agreement first. Most of them will, right? Most of them will do it. Some of them will try to hold you to an agreement, whatever the length of your agreement is. But if they are not performing their duties according to what they promised you, you can make a switch. You can insist on the switch, and we'll be able to talk about that pretty quickly. My name is Barb Schlinker. I am the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. I'm also the broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyer's team right here in Colorado Springs. I've been here in this business since 1996. So I've seen a lot of things. I don't know everything, of course, but I've seen a lot of things. And I've seen a lot of different markets, right? And there is an approach to selling a home when the market is not as robust as it used to be. It was the easy button a few years ago, Richard, when, you could put a house on the market and you go, okay, everybody throw in your offer and we'll look at offers on Monday and it'll all be good. And we're going to have 10 to pick from, and it's going to sell for way over asking price. And it was a good time for me. It was a good time for the sellers, but that is not the market today. Okay. And if you're not prepared for that, you need to prepare to create that environment if possible, or at the very least, get it to sell at market value. So in our state forms, there's a standard form. It's called the exclusive right to sell. Every licensed agent has to use that form. And basically it talks about what are the basic duties, be your advocate. And there's a few little things that they have to do, like present all offers and disclose any broken things about the house. But it really doesn't say anything about promotion other than they're paying for marketing. It doesn't say anything. Which is, don't you think that's odd, Richard, that you hired somebody to sell your home and there is no discussion about marketing?
I think that is very odd. As a former trial attorney, if I were reviewing something like that, it didn't include language. I'd have to ask myself, so what's that about? Why is that language is not in the document?
Right. And then there's language in the contract that says if you don't feel as though the agent is doing the duties that they said they were going to perform, you can terminate. But it's not really clear and in writing. Now we go the next step. We actually provide a document that gives them the promises of what we're going to do. And if they're not happy and they don't give us a chance, we could resolve it first. But even after that, they could fire us because we want happy clients. We definitely do. So when we come back, we're going to talk about how you can actually make a change. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Remember, if you didn't hear the entire show, you can always find the podcast and hear everything Barb has to say. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, if a home seller has to make a real estate agent switch, what are reasons and ways to change real estate agents when you're midstream?
Well, Richard, I would start with reading your agreement with the agent. That would be number one. There's a few paragraphs in there you got to pay close attention to. One of them is number 7. It's about the holdover clause. Like if you leave me and then one of the buyers that made an offer during my listing comes back at you when you list it, you owe me a commission, right? So you got to read that part. And paragraph 19, which is about the authorization to cancel. But what's weird, since the state forms don't really give any data about performance of an agent. In fact, it was funny. I kind of got into a heated argument this weekend over some agent telling me how to do my business. How would you like that, Richard?
I would not like that at all. And I'll be honest, you've been doing this for a couple of decades right here along the Front Range, Colorado Springs, El Paso County. You know this inside and out, you know the market inside and out. I can't imagine anybody telling you how to do your job.
Well, I mean, I took his feedback. We were in a discussion about whether or not his buyer was qualified to go view the home, and he didn't agree with me that he should check to make sure they're qualified to buy the home before he showed a home. Okay. So I said, look, if you've verified it, I'm fine. Everything's good. I just don't like it when agents, what I call pop tart out of the toaster, show up at the house and hope and pray the buyer can buy and wants to buy a home like that, because it's very disruptive for most sellers, especially if they live in the home, to get up and, get the dogs out, get everything ready to show, and then find out, oh, well, I wanted a ranch and it's a 2-story, or, oh, we're not quite ready to buy. Anyway.
To me, it's just unprofessional that people would do it that way and expect that they would have good results or good relationships with buyers, sellers, or other agents like you.
Yeah, he kept arguing with me, this agent. And finally I said, look, last I checked, you don't write my paycheck. because I was like, he goes, well, I can tell this conversation is not going well. I said, no, it's not. It's really not. But, there is no job description of what a listing agent or what a buyer's agent is supposed to do. That's the weirdest thing about this industry. Everybody makes all these assumptions about what's supposed to be done. But the only thing that has to be done is what's in the rule book, which is very, very limited. And it just opens the door for a lot of frustration for our customers. So if you think that you need to make a change, then, you can invoke paragraph 19 of the agreement, which basically says, either, if you haven't performed your duties, maybe you've abandoned the client, maybe you haven't performed what you said you're going to do, then, you could cancel the agreement. I've actually talked to 2 home sellers recently that their former agent changed the price of their home publicly without written permission, without even permission at all. I mean, it's like, wow, okay, that's not something I would do. But if they don't fulfill their duties, then you could terminate based on that. And it is somewhat subjective. Do you owe them a commission, though, when you cancel? No, not unless during your listing, somebody brought an offer and there is an unbroken chain of events, and then they go to the next agent and bring an offer. Otherwise, it's not the case. It's a little awkward for most people to have to break the bad news that, hey, I want to make a change in real estate. I'm really sorry, but we're just going to go separate ways. Will you please send me over termination? And they might push back at that point. But make sure you read all the termination documents very carefully. I've had a lot of people have me do that for them, just to look over the shoulder and read what it says. At the end of the day, it's a business agreement. It's one of your largest assets. And at least I want you to be happy at the outcome in the end. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. A short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about why you need a real estate agent when you buy a new home. Barb will explain that. Stay tuned.